Southern California, good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Today we have ourselves quite a show, as we have a lot to get into in the world of Southern California sports, such as LAFC losing in the first leg of the CONCACAF Finals. Can they win the second leg and possibly the whole CONCACAF tournament, or will they fall just short to Lyon? And how about the LA Galaxy beating Real Salt Lake in the quarterfinals of the US Open Cup? Is this the start of the turnaround, and just how different are the LA Galaxy? Also, the Angels are kind of taking a little bit of a nosedive, but that's what happens when you play the Houston Astros. And the Dodgers are looking promising as they took down the New York Yankees yesterday. Much better than the Padres, as the Padres are still trying to dig their way out of the hole that they got in. Also, it was a little bit of a rough week for Angel City FC and Wave FC, as they both took losses on early in the week. But hey, it's a whole new week, and they're going to look to get back into the W column. Also, we have quite a number of dum-dums of the week, and the Sparks got back into the W column with a thrilling victory over the Phoenix Mercury. All that and more here on the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. This is Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IA Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And welcome all to another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Thank you all for joining me on this beautiful Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening, Saturday wherever you are listening from. Either way, you have made your way into episode 136 of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. And without any further delay, let us begin. But first and foremost, the SoCal Supreme Sports Show would not be where it's at without IA Sports Radio providing the platform to go live on Spreaker. Please do follow IA Sports Radio on several different social media platforms such as Twitter, Instagram, and on TikTok. We also have a Facebook page for those that still use that social media platform. All you just gotta do is type in the word IE, then sports and radio in the search bar on Facebook. See our icon/logo. Click on it, like us, and follow us, and then boom, that's how you're able to follow us on Facebook. We also have a website, www.iesportsradio.com, and when you go there, you will see a Patreon link at the top, and once you click it, if you choose to donate, donations will start out at $5 a month. But like I said, donations are optional if you want to donate. This will get you a shout out from all of our shows, as we are now up to 33 shows, if my math serves me correctly. And higher tiers include IA Sports Radio merchandise, access to ISRU, the podcasting university of IA Sports Radio, and even a chance to be featured on a segment of our flagship show, The Defining Moment, with Larry B. Because for the past 8 years and counting, IA Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content, ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel, to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. All the while, we've continued to be by the fans and for the fans, and with your help, we are ready to take the next biggest step. Thank you to everyone for all of your support and for making IA Sports Radio your direct feed for all that sports. Shout out to our Patreon supporters, Bay Area Raised Apparel, Key to the Gate, Marcus Lowscreen, and a donor that wishes to remain anonymous. With all that said and done, let us begin. So there's no NFL news or no NBA news as the Lakers just got eliminated, but we still have the MLS, we still have the NWSL, we still have the MLB, we have the WNBA in full effect. We still have those sports going on. So let's jump on into some MLS action, as LAFC was in the finals of the CONCACAF tournament. It was quite the amazing sight to see, as I don't think anyone predicted LAFC to get that far. I mean, they're a good team, but I just don't think anyone predicted the LAFC to just go that deep. But for LAFC, they made it to the finals of the CONCACAF tournament, which was very impressive if you ask me. And they faced Lyon after beating the Philadelphia Union in the semifinals in both legs. Unfortunately, they lost in the first leg of the semifinals 2-1. And in this matchup, they played on Wednesday, by the way, and unfortunately for LAFC, they just looked a little rattled in this matchup, especially in the first half. The first half, I just feel the moment was just a little bit too intense, and maybe it was because LAFC was playing on the road in Estadio León. That's where Lyon plays its home games, and Lyon is in Mexico, so Lyon, being an international team, they got on the board first as William Tessio scored 8 minutes into the game, and then Angel Mena scored on a penalty kick 5 minutes into extra time toward the end of the first half, and suddenly it was 2-0 in favor of the hosts, being Lyon. And I just don't understand what happened with LAFC. I just think LAFC was kind of in their own heads, and I feel maybe the second half was kind of they snapped out of it, and I was fearing they were going to get shut out. Now, if you're not familiar with the first and second legs, it's basically a part 1 versus part 2, and then they add up all the goals, and whoever has more goals basically is the winner. So you could basically get crushed. You basically could lose a heartbreaker in the first leg, but if you crush your opponent in the second leg, basically you would win the whole thing. I'm no soccer expert, but that's just how this whole soccer tournament thing works. So LAFC did actually manage to salvage a goal 6 minutes into extra time, as Dennis Bouanga managed to score a very late goal, and that gave LAFC a slight glimmer of hope in terms of winning the CONCACAF tournament altogether. But they still lost in the first leg 2-1 to Lyon. Now, that's the bad news. The good news is that they're back at it in the second leg tomorrow in Los Angeles. It's I got to get the name right because I'm still trying to learn the actual name. The BMO Stadium, which is in Los Angeles, California. So LAFC is back at it against Lyon tomorrow in the BMO Stadium for the second leg of the CONCACAF Finals. Now, if LAFC wins by 2 goals, they win the whole tournament. If they win by 1 goal, then I imagine it goes to penalty kicks, and whoever wins in penalty kicks wins the whole CONCACAF Finals. And then if LAFC loses, then LAFC loses, and then they just go back to basically MLS play, not having won the CONCACAF tournament. They'll just be runner-ups. But even if they lose the CONCACAF Finals, I mean, it's not the end of the world for them. Losing these games isn't bad just because, well, it doesn't hurt their MLS record for starters. And for them to go that deep into the CONCACAF tournament to begin with is quite amazing. And I have been hearing, and this is just a small rumor, that if you win the CONCACAF tournament, you're cursed and you don't do well in the MLS Cup. Now, that's just a rumor, and that's kind of just a myth, but I don't know, bro. Maybe LAFC will have to test that theory. They are still stacked, but for LAFC, they still need to get back into some MLS play. They have been away from MLS play for quite some time, and thankfully tomorrow is the last time we'll see them playing in any more tournaments. After tomorrow, we will not see them playing in any more tournaments, and then it'll just be MLS play the rest of the way for LAFC. And then after they play Lyon on Sunday, LAFC will stay at home where they host Atlanta United on Wednesday. Then next Saturday, LAFC will travel to H-Town to take on the Houston Dynamo, if I'm not... Yes, Houston Dynamo. I keep getting the Dynamo and the Dash mixed up. Houston Dash is NWSL. Houston Dynamo is MLS. So for LAFC, their biggest test will be, can they keep up with the Joneses in the MLS? Because they've got a bit of ground to make up. They've only played 12 matches as opposed to Seattle's 17 in the MLS. So that's something they got to work on. And as a result, LAFC is in third place in the Western Conference behind Seattle. Now, that could obviously change just because LAFC still has some matches to make up. Obviously, they've got the Atlanta match to make up. They've got the Galaxy match, which was supposed to be their season opener at the Coliseum, but now it's been pushed to the 4th of July, where the two teams are going to be playing at the Coliseum, home of USC, just because that was supposed to be their season opener, and then the rain decided to rain on the parade of the Galaxy and LAFC. So there was that right there for LAFC, and yeah, it's almost over for LAFC. They are about to finally be over and done with all these outside tournaments. Then they could focus on repeating as MLS Cup champions. So we'll see what happens with LAFC come tomorrow. And again, if they win the tournament, that's awesome. They will have beaten Lyon, and that would be really cool if they beat Lyon in the finals of the CONCACAF tournament. But if they don't, then there's nothing to hang their hats on. I mean, or nothing to really hang their heads on. I mean, the fact that they even got this far is quite amazing. And the fact that they even beat the Philadelphia Union speaks to high volumes of how there's no such thing as an MLS Cup hangover. I don't know if the Philadelphia Union was at full strength, but all I could tell you is that LAFC was just happy to see them, and they were able to take care of business any day in any way. And I can proudly say that LAFC is looking quite nice, and I hope that LAFC, despite some of their departures like Gareth Bale and some of the other few players that left, probably due to like free agency or trades, they can like step up for LAFC, but time will tell. So that is that for LAFC and whatnot. As for the other LA team, the LA Galaxy, aka Little Brother, so it's been quite the interesting week for them. They had a little bit of news, which I was very surprised at, but I'll get into that a little bit later. But they actually had a match in the U.S. Open Cup quarterfinals as they played Real Salt Lake. They played the same night as LAFC did in the CONCACAF tournament finals, as they played Real Salt Lake. So the scoring did not start until late in the first half, as Gaston Brugman scored on a penalty kick 4 minutes into extra time in the first half, and he was able to bury it. And so far, the Galaxy was up 1-0 at halftime. It was actually looking very promising against Real Salt Lake. Now, Real Salt Lake is not a bad team by any means, but I will say they're no better than the Galaxy. They're only one spot ahead of the Galaxy, so it makes you wonder, how did Real Salt Lake get to the quarterfinals? Anyway, in the second half, 6 minutes into the second half, Daniel Musovski scored for Real Salt Lake, knotting it up at 1-1, and then 16 minutes after that, Pablo Ruiz scored to give Real Salt Lake a 2-1 lead. So it looked like the Galaxy were heading back to normal mode, where they were just giving up the lead. And then Memo Rodriguez scored 5 minutes after Pablo Ruiz's goal, as he scored the equalizer, and suddenly it was 2-2. But Tyler Boyd, God bless the man, he was playing on a sore, I think it was a right hand. He was playing with an injured hand. He scored 2 minutes after Rodriguez's goal, and that put the Galaxy up 3-2, and that eventually became the final score. So just like that, the LA Galaxy are advancing to the U.S. Open Cup semifinals, just like everybody predicted. And honestly, good for the Galaxy. This could be the start of something somewhat special. Maybe this is the start of the turnaround, I don't know. But I will say this, they certainly played better than their game against Charlotte, as, well, the Galaxy lost that one 1-0 against Charlotte FC, as they lost at home at Dignity Health Sports Park, as Karol Swiderski scored in the 73rd minute for Charlotte, And what made matters worse for the Galaxy is that Javier Hernandez got a red card 12 minutes after that, so that just added more icing to the cake, or the cherry on top of the cake of doom. So, yeah, that was pretty bad for the Galaxy. That was horrible. But at least the Galaxy are looking a little bit better, as they managed to beat Real Salt Lake, a team that's better than them, I guess. As now for the Galaxy, they face Real Salt Lake on Wednesday, which I'm getting everything mixed up, and oh my goodness, I am a complete ding dong. So the Galaxy actually beat Real Salt Lake in an MLS game. So this game actually was not the U.S. Open Cup game. This was a game this was an MLS Cup. This was an MLS game, so I'll probably have to. So that's a my bad moment on me. So the Galaxy beat Real Salt Lake 3-2 in an MLS game. So this was just a regular season game. So that's just the regular season game. So that's actually good. So it helps the Galaxy's record. So the two teams play in the U.S. Open Cup on June 7th, which, man, that's going to be something. So now the Galaxy know what to expect with Real Salt Lake and vice versa. So I'll probably be interested in what happens with Real Salt Lake and the Galaxy, just because, well, for starters, the Galaxy beat Real Salt Lake when it mattered most in terms of the MLS games or MLS matches. But now the two are playing in the U.S. Open Cup, which is basically a little bit of I wouldn't say a Commissioner's Cup-like tournament. So that's basically what's next for the Galaxy this Wednesday. The match will take place this Wednesday, and the impressive thing about the Galaxy's win is that they actually won on the road at Real Salt Lake. They won at the America First Field in Sandy, Utah. Guess where they're playing this matchup in the U.S. Open Cup quarterfinals? In Real Salt Lake at the America First Field in Sandy, Utah. So the Galaxy basically, if they didn't leave Utah, they basically are going back to Utah. So if they did leave Utah, then they're going from Utah to California, then back to Utah. But if they chose not to leave Utah and they just chose to spend the week there in Utah just to adapt to basically practicing there and adapt to the altitude and whatnot, then that's actually smart thinking on their part. So the Galaxy will be playing Real Salt Lake again in the U.S. Open Cup quarterfinals. So that previous game that they played was basically an MLS game. So it counts toward the record. This match will not count toward the record of the Real Salt Lake and the LA Galaxy. So that match will be played at 6:30 p.m. And then also this week, the Galaxy will be hitting the road to the Lou, aka St. Louis, as they play the St. Louis City SC, as they'll be playing in City Park in St. Louis, Missouri. That matchup will start at 10 a.m. Pacific time. Now, St. Louis has kind of been the talk of the town, as they've been quite impressive in their first year. They are second in the Western Conference, so yeah, this is going to be a rough matchup for the Galaxy. But hey, their current matchup at the moment is Real Salt Lake in the U.S. Open Cup. Once they get past Real Salt Lake in the U.S. Open Cup, then they could focus on St. Louis City SC. And then, like I said, just like for LAFC, even if the LA Galaxy don't win this tournament, if they don't win the U.S. Open Cup, if they actually do, then golly. Even if the Galaxy don't win the U.S. Open Cup, then my goodness, it's still quite an accomplishment for the Galaxy to even get to the quarterfinals. Even though they kind of had to beat a young / not so impressive LAFC team who was just resting its starters and who was basically playing a bunch of its 3-string guys and its development guys. So overall for the Galaxy, what matters most is their MLS games, and hopefully they're able to get it together. The good thing is that because their matchup against Real Salt Lake actually counted as an MLS game this past Wednesday, that actually helps their record, as they're no longer dead last in Western Conference, let alone they're no longer the worst team in MLS, as they're now second worst team in the Western Conference, as they're now 3-3-9, 3 wins, 3 draws, and 9 losses. The new worst team in the MLS and the new worst team in the Western Conference is the Colorado Rapids. Ooh, that's rough. That's rough times right there, but I digress. The Galaxy actually play the Rapids on June 24th, which that might actually be a chance to actually help them get back up the Western Conference standings. Or it could be a chance to basically send the Galaxy plummeting even further. But I hope it's the first of the two. So we'll see what happens with the Galaxy. Right now, they have a U.S. Open Cup tournament to continue to impress in. I hope for their sake they are able to win that matchup. I mean, it's tough to beat a team twice in the span of a week. It really is, in any sport for that matter. So for the Galaxy, if they're able to do that, then my goodness, hats off to them, but they're still pretty bad. And Real Salt Lake is, like I said, they're no better than the Galaxy. They're like one spot ahead of them in the Western Conference. So basically the Galaxy are winning the battle of who's less worse between the Galaxy and Real Salt Lake. So there's that right there. But if they were to advance to the semifinals of the U.S. Open Cup, then by golly, let's see if the Galaxy can do so. That could probably be their Super Bowl. And then the rest of the season, it won't matter for the Galaxy. Or maybe that could be the key to the turnaround for the Galaxy, and then heaven knows what'll happen. Alright, so that is that for the Galaxy and LAFC in the MLS right there. Apologies for the little bit of a mix-up in regards to the Galaxy and their matchups against Real Salt Lake. It doesn't help that Real Salt Lake is actually playing them twice in the span of 1 week. It's like, why couldn't you have just postponed that one matchup and then just saved it till afterward? But maybe Real Salt Lake's schedule just can't be helped or anything of that sort. So we'll see. All right, but enough about the MLS. Let's jump to some WNBA action as the Los Angeles Sparks got back into the W column as they won a thriller of a game against the Phoenix Mercury. They won 99-93, and Lexi Brown, let me just say, she has been quite phenomenal as she had 26 points. She was 11 for 16 from the field. It was a total team effort as this was a totally different Phoenix Mercury team, which was not the same Phoenix Mercury team that was beaten down by the Sparks in the season opener for both teams. In addition, Nneka Ogwumike added 21 points. She also surpassed Lisa Leslie in terms of all-time steals for the Los Angeles Sparks, as Nneka Ogwumike is now the all-time steals leader in terms of Los Angeles Sparks history. So good job to Nneka Ogwumike, and she kind of gets the first Big W award, as that's quite phenomenal to make history for the Los Angeles Sparks. And for her to basically surpass Lisa Leslie in that category is quite phenomenal. Lisa Leslie will always be my favorite Los Angeles Spark, and she will always be an icon for all WNBA players. And the Sparks are an icon for all Los Angeles female sports, and for all female sports in general, just because they were the first. I don't know if anyone knows this. They're actually the first female sport in Los Angeles. So Angel City did not come first. They were the first pro-female sport to come in Los Angeles. So Angel City didn't come first. It was actually the Sparks that came first. And Wave FC did not come first, so there's that right there. So it's a good win for the Sparks. I kind of wish they didn't have to win in overtime fashion, but it is what it is. And thankfully, the Sparks were able to get back some of their players, as they did not have a majority of their players like they did against the Aces in those two matchups from last week. So obviously they still have a few players out, like Azura Stevens, who has a back injury, and then Jasmine Thomas is still in ACL rehab, and then obviously you have Katie Lou Samuelson, who's still on pregnancy leave, which is what it is. Mike pops the chat room. He says, "How are things in SoCal?" They are good. I just talked about the MLS. Now I'm on to the WNBA, and Larry says SoCal. Thanks for popping into the chat room. So the Sparks have a quick turnaround as they are back in action tonight in another Commissioner's Cup game against the Seattle Storm. But this time the Sparks will be at home at the Crypto.com Arena. So thank goodness the Sparks are back home. It sucks that they have to travel. I mean, yes, at least they'll be back home. Thankfully, they don't have to go up north. And I guess it's not too much of a travel, but still. I wish they could have gotten at least a little bit of rest. But by the time their game starts, they'll still have a little bit of a chance to basically catch their breath and to basically plan out a game plan for the Seattle Storm, as the Storm are 0-3 to start the season, and their last game was against the New York Liberty, which saw them losing 86-78. So they haven't really been blown out outside of their first matchup, which was against the Las Vegas Aces, which are basically just dominating everybody offensively and defensively. But for the Sparks, they just can't underestimate the Seattle Storm. They just can't. Just because they're 0-3 does not mean they're going to be rolling over and just handing the Sparks the win in a to-go box. It just doesn't work that way, right? And the worst part is that the Sparks have to play the Storm again on Tuesday in Seattle. So the Storm will have a little bit better of an understanding for the Sparks after this matchup. So that's going to be quite fascinating right there. And then after that Commissioner's Cup game on Tuesday, the Sparks will take a break from Commissioner's Cup action next Friday when they host the Chicago Sky, which I think that should be a good little matchup right there. And then Sparks will resume action in the Commissioner's Cup on Sunday against the Minnesota Lynx, who are abysmal 0-6. So we'll see what happens with the Sparks. And overall for the Sparks, I think they're starting to get it together. I would like to see them more at full strength, but at least they were able to have some of their big-time players like the Okumika girls, even though Chinny wasn't all that great. She only played 21 minutes. NECA was definitely big-time in overtime. Lexi Brown was huge. She was clutch for the Sparks, to say the least. Jordan Canada was big time. She had 16 points. Carly Samuelson chipped in 9 points off the bench. Derica Hammy also chipped in 8 points off the bench. So overall for the Sparks, they're still trying to get their roster back, and they're still trying to get everything, their feel for the season. So we'll see what happens with the Sparks, but it's good that they were able to get that win. And I think that the Sparks are definitely going to be improved. I just hope they got rid of the players that didn't want to be there. Like the toxic players, as I like to call them. Like the players that don't want to put the team ahead of themselves. But I will be interested to see how they do tonight against the Storm, especially on the second of a back-to-back. After that, they will get 2 well-deserved days off, and then they'll head up to Seattle to play the Storm again in another Commissioner's Cup game, so we'll see what happens. Alright, but that is that for the Los Angeles Sparks. Jumping over to the NWSL, so Wednesday was quite the hub for all things soccer in terms of Southern California. You had LAFC playing in the CONCACAF Finals against Lyon. You had the LA Galaxy playing an MLS game against Real Salt Lake. And then you had Angel City FC, and then you also had Wave FC playing in their matchups, which definitely they did not look good. So they played in a group stage game in their in their NWSL Challenge Cup, which they did not look, like I said, they did not look good. They played OL Reign in Snapdragon Stadium or in San Diego, and let's just say this game was quite forgettable. It was looking promising in the first half. They were only down 1 goal as Ryan Brown scored for OL Reign in the 29th minute. But then Olivia Athens scored 9 minutes into the second half. And then 6 minutes after, Jordan Huitema scored for OL Reign. And it was just the point of no return for San Diego as they lost 3-0. It was just no bueno for San Diego as they wound up getting shut out, and yeah, it was not a good time for San Diego Wave FC. It was a hideous time. It was kind of that moment where you just want to forget about that game. You want to flush it down the toilet. It's just one of those games where sadly the goals just weren't there. As San Diego is actually back in action tomorrow at Gotham, or their fancy way of calling them NJ/NYFC, which, anyway, their matchup starts at 3 p.m., and this is the best team in the NWSL taking on the 4th best team in the NWSL, and this is kind of the big test for both teams. For Wave FC, I think they can win this game just because Gotham, their goal differential is very surprising. It's actually only +4. Now, when you compare that to, like, Portland, that's +12 right there. So, color me flabbergasted, if you ask me. Later on in the week, San Diego Wave FC hits the road to finger-licking Louisville as they play Louisville on Friday, and then they won't have another match until Saturday, June 17th, when they host Angel City. So that's going to be quite fascinating for Wave FC. They get to play a team that's middle of the pack of the NWSL standings, and then they play the top team in the NWSL standings. I really want to see how they do against Gotham. If they could beat NJ/ New Jersey/New York, I think Wave FC could really establish themselves as one of the better teams in the NWSL. I think Wave FC definitely has some talent. It's just all about putting that talent together and coming up big when it matters most. But we'll see what happens with Wave FC as, again, they have some good parts to their team. It's just all about seeing what they could do in action. They obviously do not have Alex. It doesn't look like they have Alex Morgan, but they're better off. They could utilize her without her. But we'll see. Anyway, that is that for San Diego Wave FC. Now, Angel City has been quite the forgettable ride for Angel City FC, as they've been an injury plagued, if you ask me. They've been an injury infirmary, if you ask me. As this past Wednesday, they unfortunately lost to Portland. Well, I should also mention that last Saturday they lost to OL Reign 4-1. So, that's quite devastating if you ask me. And then Angel City tied with Portland last Friday 1-1. So, that's promising for Wave FC. But back to Angel City. So, they played Portland in group stage play in the NWSL Challenge Cup this past Wednesday. And early on, it was looking like a complete nightmare for Angel City as Michelle Vasconcelos scored in the 23rd minute. But that was basically the only goal in the first half for either team as Portland led 1-0. It could have been a whole lot worse. With how injury-plagued Angel City was, they could have easily been down 2 or 3-0 at halftime. But Southern California native Izzy D. Aquila scored in 1 minute into the second half, and suddenly Portland was up 2-0, and it was looking pretty bad for Angel City. But then Clarice Le Bihan scored the first goal of the game for Angel City in the 61st minute. Suddenly it was 2-1 in favor of the Thorns. Then Claire Emsley scored on a penalty kick in the 66th minute, and suddenly it was 2-2. And it looks like Angel City is actually going to at least salvage a tie, as they were really playing some good defense, making sure that Portland wasn't going to get that game-breaking goal. Unfortunately, in extra time, Morgan Weaver managed to nail a goal 3 minutes into extra time, as that managed to pretty much doom Angel City FC, as Portland wound up winning 3-2. But I really, really, really got to give it up to Angel City. Considering they've been so injury-plagued with losing a bunch of players to injuries and whatnot, this isn't that bad of a loss. They could have easily gotten blown out of the water. And Portland is a dominating team. But honestly, it's still a loss. And there are no silver linings. Larry B put it best. A tie is better than a loss in soccer. And yeah, it's definitely better than a loss. And it would have been great to see Angel City getting a tie just like their San Diego sisters did. Unfortunately, that late goal from Morgan Weaver just kind of killed it for them. And for Angel City, I give them a valiant effort, but unfortunately, you have to account into extra time. You have to take into consideration extra time. And you never know with what the officials are going to put in terms of like extra time. They could put 5 minutes extra time. They could put maybe more extra time in after the allotted extra time. So, unfortunately for Angel City, they just fell short of beating the Portland Thorns. But hey, they gave them all that they could handle. So, I gotta give them a little bit of a thumbs up on that effort. But it's just been quite a tough ride for Angel City with all the injuries and whatnot. And they've been behind the 8 ball in terms of wins and losses. So, here's hoping Angel City can get it together, as Monday, Angel City will be hosting Chicago, the Chicago Red Stars. And then next Saturday, Angel City will be hitting the road to our nation's capital to take on the Washington Spirit. And then after that, the following Saturday, or 2 weeks from today, Angel City will be hitting the road to good old San Diego, to Snapdragon Stadium, to take on San Diego Wave FC in a NWSL Challenge Cup game. So, for Angel City, here's hoping that they can get it together. The good news is that Chicago is kind of actually worse off than them. They just can't underestimate Chicago. Otherwise, it's going to be somewhat of a tragedy in their next matchup. Because I'd hate to see them getting worse and worse, just because they're already falling further and further back of the NWSL standings. And also, for starters, you got to remember that Angel City is so banged up in terms of their team. You know that they're banged up when they're having an 18-year-old, aka what I think her name is like Jordan Thompson or something like that. Either way, they're starting like 18-year-olds. Yeah, they even have like 18-year-olds playing. They even have an 18-year-old on their current roster, Jaden Shaw, that's pretty bad. And heck, they even have a 15-year-old on their team, Melanie Barcenas. So that's just how bad it is for... Oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong roster. So that's Wave FC's roster. Whoops. So Angel City, it's still pretty bleak for them, as Alyssa Thompson. Yeah, it's bad to the point where they have to start an 18-year-old, and this 18-year-old is actually having to lead the way for them. Yes, Alyssa Thompson is a phenomenal talent for Angel City FC, but when she has to lead the team just because of injuries and whatnot, well, you're having the worst luck in terms of your team, in terms of injuries, than the Chargers do. And the Rams. Gotta throw them in there as well, but overall, for Angel City FC, there's still plenty of time to get your you-know-what together. You still have a month's worth of games. You have this week's games in terms of the month, and then you've got 4 more months to like get it together. So altogether, you have 16 game matches left before the end of the season. So here's hoping Angel City can turn the tide, and If they can, awesome. If not, then they'll probably see their San Diego brethren do their thing. But I did not know San Diego Wave FC had a 15-year-old on their roster. Good Lord Almighty. This team is going to be something special in the future. Like, that's crazy, dude. A 15-year-old? And they have an 18-year-old? This team is going to be quite fascinating, if you ask me, in the near future. So, we'll see what happens when it comes to both of those NWSL teams. But that is pretty much that for the NWSL right there. So jumping over to some college baseball. I would talk about college softball, but there are no college softball teams playing in the College World Series. Now, as for the College Baseball World Series, that is a whole different story, as there is still one team alive, one team participating in the College Baseball World Series, and that just so happens to be, can we get a drum roll please? Cal State Fullerton, just like everybody predicted. So, in case you're wondering, Cal State Fullerton actually has a rich tradition in terms of having a great baseball team. They've actually had success winning the College World Series, and honestly, I think they have a good shot at representing Southern California. Now, they actually got thrown into the Stanford Regional, and that's going to be very tough. And they actually lost yesterday to Texas A&M, which is no bueno. So today they actually had an elimination game against San Jose State, and the thing was, if they lost, they were basically on the next flight or the next bus, depending on how they're traveling, back to Fullerton. But if they were to win, they'd still be alive. So Fullerton was able to win against San Jose State, eliminating San Jose State as San Jose State takes the next bus back to San Jose State, or San Jose, just because, well, they're in Stanford, and that's Northern California territory, so they don't have to travel far. Ahem. Anyway, but for Cal State Fullerton, they still are alive and kicking in terms of the College World Series, and they advance to another elimination game tomorrow where I want to say they face the loser of Texas A&M versus Stanford. And the loser goes home, and then the winner advances to the Super Regionals. Now, I'm not the biggest guy when it comes to college baseball. I'm not ultimately big on college baseball and college softball. I mean, I try to follow a little bit of it. I obviously knew the debacle with UCLA, and then I knew San Diego State's success in terms of, like, softball. And I obviously know that Cal State Fullerton obviously has had success in terms of past baseball success. But I don't know. I'm just not the biggest college baseball guy. But I like it. I mean, my school, Long Beach State, was big in terms of college baseball. Obviously, it wasn't big enough to make the tournament, but it is what it is. I do want to give a shout-out to UC San Diego, as they actually did win the Big West Conference. They finished 21-9 in conference play, 34-18 overall, which you're probably wondering, well, where is UC San Diego? Did they lose in the first round? No. There is one problem with UC San Diego. They can't partake in the NCAA tournament or the College World Series just because they are still in the transition period of Division II all the way to Division I. And I want to say this is their last year of waiting in the whole transition period, which I think is still stupid. I don't like that, and basically Cal State Fullerton had to take their place, which I understand the whole transition period type of thing, but still, I just feel bad for UC San Diego. I know they still have to wait. I want to say this is their last year that they have to wait their turn in terms of like the transition period. But I do want to give them a big W award on them winning the Big West Conference tournament, or not the Big West Conference tournament, the Big West Conference. There is no conference tournament. And the fact that they were able to finish 34-18 and they were able to win the Big West Conference is absolutely amazing. And I really have to give them a huge Big W award for that, just because they're still in the transition period of Division II into Division I. And remember, you're playing against the big boys like Cal State Fullerton, UC Irvine, Long Beach State, UC Santa Barbara, Hawaii, who was pretty solid this year, CSUN, who was drastically improved. So for UC San Diego, who's still in the transition period from Division II to Division I, to win the Big West Conference in baseball is straight up phenomenal. And their coach even got the Big West Conference Coach of the Year. So I am very impressed by UC San Diego winning the Big West Conference. And here's to more conference championships to come. And I'm hoping that UC San Diego can eventually get back to being on top of the Big West Conference standings so that they can make the NCAA tournament. It sucks that they're still in the transition period to the point where they can't partake in the NCAA tournament or the College World Series. But things are looking very promising for UC San Diego, and I really hope that they can continue their winning ways, just because that's just quite amazing. They finished one game ahead of Fullerton and CSUN. And when you're finishing ahead of really good programs that have had a lot of success and that have sent players to the MLB, sorry if my voice was cracking quite a bit, you have my respect, no matter who you are, no matter where you're from. So good job to UC San Diego, and here's to more success to come. And the Big West was quite the dogfight. First place and second place, which actually was tied between Fullerton and CSUN, was only separated by one game. Heck, UC Irvine was in the hunt, and unfortunately they were on the outside looking in despite a great season. They finished 38-17, and they finished on the outside looking in. And same with USC. Here's the thing about USC. They actually were picked to finish dead last in the Big West Conference, and yet they finished fourth. Unfortunately, they did not win the Pac-12 tournament, and they didn't win their conference regular season title, but I want to say they finished fourth in the Pac-12 tournament, or not the Pac-12 tournament. They finished fourth in the Pac-12 regular season standings, which I think is awesome. To basically be picked to finish dead last, and to basically, USC was finished fourth in the Big West, USC finished fourth in the Pac-12 baseball standings behind the likes of Stanford, Oregon State, Washington, and USC, and they straight up didn't make the tournament. It sucks. They basically shattered a whole lot of expectations. You want to know what's even worse for USC? A team by the name of Arizona, which they managed to actually finish above in the standings, they actually made the tournament. Now, obviously Arizona might have won the tournament, the Pac-12 tournament, but it just straight up sucks. And then also Oregon managed to make the NCAA tournament, or the College World Series, ahead of USC. So I kind of think USC might have gotten robbed, especially when they had a first-year head coach. But overall, it doesn't take away from the success that USC had. And honestly, good for them for having such a fantastic season. And I hope USC baseball continues their success. And heck, they even beat UCLA quite a number of times. And heck, they even took the series against all three of the California teams, which included UCLA. They beat Cal, Stanford, and UCLA at least 2 times in the regular season. So the fact that USC is onward and upward in terms of their new skipper, and the fact that they proved a whole lot of doubters wrong, I think USC baseball, it's a little early to say this, but I think USC baseball might be back. But time will tell to see if the Trojans baseball team will be as great as their football team. Obviously, that's a stretch in saying that, but the fact that USC baseball is looking really impressive, and the fact that they smashed expectations, speaks to high volumes of how the Trojans are just straight up phenomenal, and I love it. So that is that for USC baseball and all things college baseball, and tomorrow is when Cal State Fullerton plays its little elimination game against what's-their-face, Texas A&M or Stanford, the loser of one of those two. But either way, I'm looking forward to seeing if Fullerton can basically pull off some Fullerton magic. If they can, awesome, but if not, they had a fantastic season, and I hope they will have better years to come. But on that note, we're going to take ourselves a quick little commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk some MLB action, and then we'll have some other college news regarding USC and UCLA, and then we'll have ourselves the Dum Dum of the Week. So keep it locked here. You are listening to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
Well, what is up, Carolina Nation? This is John Felipe of the Carolina Cast, of course, the podcast of, by, and for the Carolinas, right here on IE Sports, your direct feed for all that is sports. And I'm reminding you to tune in Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern for the latest in Carolina sports, whether it's the Panthers that keep on pounding, the fly natures of the Hornets, the storming Hurricanes, the battle of the Blues with Duke and UNC, the fight of the Clemson Tigers, or the amazing atmosphere of any Carolina college. I'm talking App State, I'm talking ECU. I've got you covered. Once again, tune in for the Carolina Cast with me, John Felipe, Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's up, sports fans? You're listening to IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your favorite West Coast Wisconsinite, Bernie Bango, and if you're a cheesehead, come listen to my show, Big Cheese Sports, where we road trip around America's Dairyland, previewing, reviewing, predicting, debating, and digging into all that is Wisconsin sports at the college and pro levels. Join me on IE Sports Radio, Sundays at 1 p.m. Central Standard. Bernie out.
Hello, sports fans. It's me, your boy Larry B, and I want to walk you through the world of sports. No, not just the mainstream major TV deal type sports, although those are important too. But let me be your guide through your journey of all sports, from college to the pros, the minors, and everything in between. Each week, we are talking sports galore with true diehards just like you from a hardcore fan's perspective that's sure to quench your thirst around leagues you may know all too well and some you may even discover here. That's right, sports fans. If you love sports of all kinds, enjoy hearing amazing sports stories, and respect all sports because you know how difficult any of them can be to play or compete in, then this is your show. Join me, your boy Larry B, on the defining moment each week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports, and let the sports come to you.
And we are back with the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Definitely check out all of our amazing shows, such as the Carolina Cast with John Felipe, Big Cheese Sports with Bernie Bango, which will be going on tomorrow at 11 a.m. Pacific Time, 1 p.m. Central Time. And also check out The Defining Moment with my brother, Larry B., which is the flagship show of IE Sports Radio, which you could be a part of in a segment if you choose to donate a certain amount of money, but I digress. Anyway, second half of the show is underway as we've got the MLB happening right now. As Larry B popped in the chat room, he said, Angels make me angry, and he said the Dodgers are making me mad too. Oh, well, I guess I should mention how the Dodgers are doing, because they're playing right now. They're down 5-1 against the Yankees, and the Angels just finished up a while ago as they lost 6-9. Nice. But what isn't nice is the Angels losing, and it hasn't been nice losing to the Astros, as they've actually lost 3 in a row to the Astros, and they're on the verge of getting swept in the series. Big oof. It seems like whenever the Angels have some good fortune, there always is some bad fortune to follow them. But that's just how the Angels roll. As last weekend, the Angels had a lot of misfortune as they got swept by the Miami Marlins of all teams. Good Lord Almighty. The Miami Marlins at Angel Stadium? What are you doing, Angels? Last Friday, they lost to the Marlins 6-2. And then in 10 innings last Saturday, they wound up losing 8-5. And then on Sunday, they lost to the Marlins 2-0, which, wow, Angels, way to make the Marlins look like the Marlins of days of old. God, no wonder you're making Larry B angry in the chat room. They did rebound quite nicely as they won 2 out of 3 against the Chicago White Sox. They beat the White Sox on Monday, Memorial Day, 6-4, but wound up losing to the White Sox by a football score of 7-3. But they closed out the series strong by beating the White Sox 12-5, which is a good way to end the series, which is not bad. But like I said, the Angels have now lost 3 in a row as they lost the first game to the Houston Astros in Houston, 5-2. They lost the second game, 6-2. And today, they lost 9-6, which is just muy unacceptable. And the fourth inning was kind of where everything just went downhill. And Patrick Sandoval, unfortunately, took the loss. Kind of sucks that he's just... I want to see him be successful, just because he is a SoCal kid. Problem is that he's kind of on a team with bad pitching altogether. So, yeah, I feel horrible for Sandoval, but hey, maybe he can turn it around. Anyway, you know what also didn't help? Alex Bregman hit a grand slam for the Astros. So, thanks a lot, Angels. Way to make the Astros look like the World Series champions that they are. Dang, Angels can't do anything right. Anyway, so the Angels are now 500, which, good job, Angels. You're back to being the average Joe that you are. It's getting back to the point where you're now almost below the Seattle Mariners, even though the Mariners had much better expectations than the Angels did. So the Angels close out the series against the Astros at 11:10 a.m. Pacific Time tomorrow. Then the Angels will head back home to Angel Stadium to take on the Chicago Cubs on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. They'll have Monday off to hopefully just think about their whole tragedy in this whole series against the Houston Astros. And then next Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the Angels will host the Seattle Mariners. That's kind of got to be for some pride right there. Like, that's kind of your division rival, and if you don't want to slip to second to last in the division, you kind of got to win that series. Just please. Nobody is expecting you to take all 3 games. Just take at least 2. Please just take 2, Angels. If you don't, you're going to make Larry B even more mad. So that is that for the Angels right there. I unfortunately think that they're coming back down to reality. I will give the benefit of the doubt to the leader of the AL West in the Texas Rangers. I don't think anyone saw their success coming from a mile away. And heck, it's even gotten to the point where the Texas Rangers are now the second best team in the American League. But I digress on that. This isn't the Texas Supreme Sports Show. This is the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Anyway, moving on to the Dodgers. So, believe it or not, the Dodgers are actually tied with the Arizona Diamondbacks for first place in the NL West. Good grief, Hannah. Ugh. It's even giving me the hiccups. The good news is that ever since I mentioned that the Dodgers were down 5-1, they actually scored a run, and they're only down 5-2, and they have a man on third with nobody out, and it's the bottom of the seventh. Yesterday they beat the New York Yankees 8-4, so I could proudly say this without hopefully not getting copyright. Duh! Yankees lose. I'm sorry to David Ortiz. Anyway, but in that win over the New York Yankees, that actually was Clayton Kershaw's 28th win over an MLB team. So he's gotten a win at least once over 28 out of the 31 MLB teams, I want to say. The only teams that he hasn't beaten are the Orioles, the Red Sox, and the Dodgers, which I think that's how it goes. Either way, good job to Clayton Kershaw, and he also gets a Big W award from me just because that's good history making right there. And someone said that he's recorded at least one win against every team he's faced in his career. I don't know about that one, but I will also say this, that yesterday's win was also his 204th career win, and it was also his first win against the Yankees. That's because it's quite the pipe dream, or quite the schematic matchup to be facing off against the Yankees, and then you have to win against the Yankees, and then it's kind of an interleague matchup right there, so you don't really get to face the Yankees all that much, so yeah. This is confirmed that Clayton Kershaw has not faced the Orioles or the Red Sox. And then he also hasn't faced the Dodgers, which, unless he goes to another team, I think he wants to say the Dodgers. He wants to be a Dodger for life. So good for him. So For Clayton Kershaw, I'm happy he is basically making history, and people give him flack for sometimes not coming up big in the postseason, but he still won that championship back in 2020, and that still counts, and I don't give a rat's tail on what anyone says. He basically was like Ash Ketchum. He finally won that Pokemon League and whatnot. Just like how, and for Clayton Kershaw, he finally won that World Series that everyone was giving him flack about. So, Kershaw's beaten 27 different teams. So, he hasn't beaten the Orioles, Red Sox, or Dodgers. And obviously, he can't face himself. The Dodgers can't face themselves. So, he has not faced any of them in the regular season. So, there's that. And that being the most different opponents, that's the most different opponents a pitcher has beaten with a single team in the MLB history. And this is according to OptaStats. So, there's that right there. Anyway, back to the Dodgers as a whole. Just because this is a team sport, and the Dodgers have to be playing as a team. So last weekend, the Dodgers lost 2 out of 3 to the Tampa Bay Rays. Last Friday, they lost 9-3 before beating the Tampa Bay Rays 6-5 last Saturday. Then on Sunday, they lost a heartbreaker to the Rays, losing 11-10. Yikes, that's a lot of runs. They even allowed 6 runs in the second inning. Good gravy, Dodgers. And I thought the Angels' pitching was horrible. Then on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, but not Thursday, the Dodgers took 2 out of 3 against the Nationals. They beat the Nationals 6-1 on Memorial Day Monday. Then they beat the Nationals 9-3 on Tuesday, before dropping the final game of the series 10-6. So that's kind of the position they're in. They're in the position where they're behind the they're not behind the Diamondbacks, but they're tied with the Diamondbacks for first place in the NL West. Did anyone have that on their bingo card? Goodness gracious. Anyway, so after a day off on Thursday, the Dodgers beat the Yankees, like I mentioned, 8-4. And like I mentioned already, currently they are down 5-2 to the Yankees, but they have 2 men on base, no outs. That game is actually being played on Fox, so I'm hoping the Dodgers can pull out the win. It'd be quite funny, because then I could say, Yankees lose. The two also play tomorrow on ESPN in ESPN's Sunday Game of the Week, or on Baseball Sunday, or whatever it's called. It's ESPN's Baseball Game of the Week. Either way, the two teams will be playing on ESPN, which is national TV, and I'm looking forward to it. And heaven knows I'll probably be having the house to myself, maybe. And then they'll have Monday off to prepare themselves for their trip up to Cincinnati, as they'll play the Cincinnati Reds on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Then, next Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the Dodgers will be heading down to the city of brotherly love to take on the Philadelphia Phillies for a 3-game series. And that's basically the Dodgers in a nutshell right there. And they do have a chance to make up some ground, as the Phillies and Reds are not that great. They're both sub 500, and this is their chance to make up some ground. I mean, compared to the Diamondbacks, well, they play the Braves later tonight. So let's say the Dodgers do win, and then let's say the Diamondbacks win as well. So if the Dodgers are able to play their cards right, then maybe, hence the word maybe, they could pull back into the lead of the NL West. But that's a time will tell moment, just because the Diamondbacks have the Nationals on the docket and the Tigers on the docket in their next series after the Braves. But again, this is the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, not the Arizona Sports Show. But for the Dodgers, at least they're doing better than the poor Padres, as you would think with all the talent the Padres have, they would actually be halfway decent. Unfortunately, that is not the case, as they are basically not in the position they want to be. But there's still plenty of time, as last Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they lost against the Yankees. They lost 2 out of 3 against the Yankees. Last Friday, they beat the Yankees 5-1 before losing a heartbreaker in 10 innings, 3-2. And then on Sunday, they lost by a football score of 10-7 to the Yankees last Sunday. Then against the Marlins, they lost they won 2 out of 3 against the Marlins, as they beat the Marlins on Tuesday after a nice, well-deserved day off, as they traveled to Miami to take on the Marlins. They beat the Marlins 9-4 on Tuesday before losing to the Marlins 2-1. And then on Thursday, the Padres laid the smackdown on the Marlins, beating them 10-1. This Friday, they started a 4-game series against the Chicago Cubbies, where the Cubs beat them 2-1. And then the Padres, who are hosting this series at Petco Park, they play the Cubs at 7:10, which is about an hour from now. So Padres and Cubs are basically going to do whatever they can, or the Padres are basically trying to get back to relevancy in the NL West. Kind of the same thing for the Cubs. I mean, at least they're not the White Sox. Oof. The series actually goes until Monday, which that's kind of a rarity. It's a 4-game series stretching all the way to Monday, which you don't really see a whole lot. But then after that, the Padres have a 2-game series starting on Tuesday and ending on Wednesday against the Seattle Mariners. Then they have Thursday off before hitting the road to the Rocky Mountains to take on the Colorado Rockies on Friday, Saturday, and on Sunday next week. So Padres, I'm hoping they're able to make up some ground with all the talent they have. I know they're still trying to find their footing, but it's kind of strange to see them in this position. It just feels weird, but I digress. So that is that for the Padres right there, and that's pretty much that for the MLB. Back to some college news. So when it comes to the SoCal Cup, or whatever cup that USC and UCLA have to fight for, basically we finally get a little bit of a whatchamacallit, a final tally of their who was won between the whatchamacallit. We finally get a final tally of how the two teams did between the head-to-head in terms of all of their athletics with one another. And this is basically, it's the Crosstown Cup, and this is basically all the times that the two teams have faced one another, and then they put together all the points, and then whoever wins is the Crosstown Cup champion. And winning by a score of 105 to 10, or winning by a final score of 105 to 85 is none other than, can we get a drum roll, please? USC. So USC is the Commissioner Cup champions, as this is the second year that the Trojans have beaten the Bruins in terms of the Commissioner's Cup. So, yeah, that's basic. I'm so sorry, UCLA fans. I don't want to have to basically ruin your day by saying this, but that's what happened. Unfortunately, you sadly fell short of winning the Crosstown Cup. But hey, there's always next year. And it was close. I mean, if you had won the football game, you might have actually had a shot. If you won if you would won that second basketball game, which you got blown out in, you might have had a chance. I mean, the list goes on and on. If you had taken at least one of those baseball matchups against USC, you might have had a shot. I'm just saying, UCLA. If you had won either of the volleyball matchups in women's volleyball, you might have had a chance. So I'm just saying, UCLA. So sorry. I'm not trying to be a meanie to UCLA here, but USC is the Commissioner's Cup, the Crosstown Cup champion. So congrats to USC. But I do actually want to get into the Commissioner's Cup for the Big West Conference, as Long Beach State is the Big West Conference Commissioner's Cup champion, which I want to say that's the second straight year they've won the Commissioner's Cup. But either way, that is a big accomplishment for Long Beach State, considering I would say they're not ultimately well known for sports. They do have success in terms of some sports like men's volleyball. They've had some success. They obviously had success in beach volleyball, where they won the Big West Conference tournament. That was huge right there. They had some decent success in softball, where they made the NCAA tournament. They had a decent amount of success in basketball, where they probably could have won the Big West Conference regular season championship had it not been for a technicality which saw UC Irvine canceling its games and not forfeiting and whatnot. So, yeah, I feel bad for Jeffrey Kamen and his team. But anyway, congratulations to Long Beach State and them winning the Commissioner's Cup in terms of the Big West Conference. So hats off to them. All right, so that is that for all of the college-related news in terms of your cup news, in terms of the Commissioner's Cup and your rivalry cup and all your cup news. Now we got to get on into the Dum Dum of the Week. But first and foremost, I actually want to give out one more Big W award, as Mike Mikey Two Guns pops into the chat room. He's actually the host of our Boston show, Our Bleepin' City. Yes, that's actually the name of the show. Our Bleepin' City is the name of the show. So thank you to Mikey Two Guns for popping in the chat room. It really means a lot. Definitely check out his show. And I'm sorry to the Boston Celtics that lost their Game 7 to the Heat. So there's that right there. But anyway, I have to give out one more Big W award, and this was a Big W award / shout out I gave out yesterday to a USC beat reporter. And this was to Adam Grossbard, as he said yesterday, a little personal news. Today is my last day on the USC beat. I'm really grateful for all the players and coaches who let me tell their stories the past 4 years. I'll share what's next in due time. But first up, a very new challenge, being a dad. Don't call it an off season. So yesterday I said a SoCal Supreme salute to Mr. Grossbard, Adam Grossbard, for all his work on the USC beat. Best of luck with your future endeavors going forward. And that's not an easy team to cover, just because there's a lot of expectations for USC, not just in football, but in basketball and some of these other sports. And USC's kind of been like the hub in terms of like all eyes are on them in terms of like SoCal sports to a T. Especially in like the big time sports like football and basketball and whatnot. I mean, maybe not like men's basketball, just because UCLA had that phenomenal team which wound up losing in the Sweet 16 or whatnot. Either way, a big SoCal Supreme salute and a Big W award shout out to Adam Grossbard, who is stepping down from the USC beat at the Southern California News Group. But he will do great things, and I do wish him the best with his family going forward. And yeah, I really hope he is able to. I hope whatever he does in terms of like journalism, he's able to continue to do great things. So best of luck with you, Adam Grossbard, and USC will miss you for sure. I'm not trying to get sappy and emotional and whatnot. Anyway, so now we gotta get on into the Dumb Dumb of the Week. So the Dumb Dumb of the Week is a segment of my show that I basically like to have to basically, rag on like an organization or a person or someone that basically does something that is just out of the ordinary or uncanny. And no one is safe from this award, except for my IE Sports Radio family. I can pull myself to give a Dum Dum of the Week award to my IE Sports Radio family. So, I have to give out too many Dum Dums of the Week awards, or too many Dum Dum of the Week awards out. And the first mini Dum Dum of the Week award goes out to me and my misadventures of being at a hotel. So, when you're at a hotel, oh boy, word to the wise, make sure you check every nook and cranny before you check out. Please, 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 please do not leave anything. And check every place. Check the bathroom, check under the bed, check under the desk, check the living room, check the refrigerator, check the closet, check every place. Don't leave anything behind. So this item wasn't big time that I left behind before checking out, but I actually left a pair of my flip-flops that I didn't even bother using. So I was thinking of going into the pool the night before checking out, but then I was like, nah, I won't go. And I had my flip-flops on. I was ready to go into the pool, but I decided to put my work first. I kicked off my flip-flops, put them underneath the desk, and I got back to work, and I completed my work assignment. And I didn't even think to check underneath the desk. So yeah, that's my mini Dum Dum of the Week award to myself. And it's just another misadventure of me being at a hotel. And this hotel was just me. This hotel, in case you're wondering, was me staying at a hotel in Long Beach for the NVA's event, the National Volleyball Association. Thankfully, I was paired with a roommate, and he said, you left your flip-flops in the room, and he was able to bring them down. And I'm like, oh, thank goodness. Now, obviously, I could replace flip-flops, and thankfully I didn't leave something valuable behind, but long story short, just check every nook and cranny for your belongings, or make a checklist. So, yeah. So the second dum-dum of the week goes out to... I don't know how to really put this. Okay, so apparently the mini dum-dum of the week goes out to basically the whole show. This was basically the whole the college baseball bracket show. This was basically the bracket reveal show, and apparently the host of the show couldn't call UC Irvine by its proper name, and that's just sad right there. I don't remember the exact name they called UC Irvine by what they assumed it was called, but when you don't know the exact name of a team or the exact name of a school, I think they called them like Cal Irvine or something. That's just frustrating right there. That's just annoying, and if you're a UC Irvine fan and if you're the school, you really got to be pulling out your hair right there, because that's just frustrating. And to the people who basically mistook UC Irvine's name, ew. Ew. And to the commissioner, and to the committee who left UC Irvine out of the College World Series, I hate you. The UC Irvine had a bunch of great wins, and they got left out of the tournament. It's just so sad, and I really do want to find the actual name that UC Irvine got called, and I feel bad for UC Irvine baseball. It's like when you're called a different name, it's just horrible. Please actually call the team by their actual name or the actual school name. I wasn't watching this whole bracket reveal for the College World Series, but it's just hair pulling, and I'm surprised the coaches didn't call up the hosts or anything of that sort and say, "Yo, you can't just call my school anything else of that sort." So, it is what it is, and I feel bad for UC Irvine men's or UC Irvine baseball, but hey, you had yourself a phenomenal season. You're going to get better as the year progresses, and honestly, yeah. And Mikey Two Gun said, if you asked me how the Boston Blue Sox were doing. Exactly. So, I totally agree. So, I feel bad for UC Irvine baseball. So those poor players and poor everybody that had to deal with that. No one deserves to deal with that on that day. It's bad enough your team didn't make the tournament, but the fact that you also had your team basically, or your school basically mispronounced, it's really? You really had the nerve to basically say that? It's just sad. But it is what it is, and to the people that called UC Irvine, Cal Irvine, or whatever it was called, please get names right. And yeah, it was a big slap in the face, and I really just want to see the name that UC Irvine was actually called, but I just think they were just called Cal Irvine or something stupid. But either way, and the committee Cal Irvine, yeah. John Cohen, the committee chair, referenced UC Irvine as Cal Irvine, and I'm hoping it's not East Coast bias, but if there is some East Coast bias, John Cohen, I got my eyes on you. So, yeah. Okay, but that's enough for the mini dum-dum of the week. Now for the big-time dum-dum of the week. Alright, so now for the main dum-dum of the week. So the first one actually goes to someone who is no longer with an organization. And this one, actually, you're wondering how the LA Galaxy got that win. Well, I think they're now in a new era. And you're probably wondering, well, Teran, what is this new era you're talking about? Well, I will just say this. The LA Galaxy are in a new era because Chris Klein is no longer their president. Let me just say it to you all very clearly. Chris Klein is fired. Kaput. Gone. He is gonzo. Fired. His pink slip. Chris Klein is out of there. LA Galaxy fans, you can rejoice now. Chris Klein is gone. He's fired. Woo! I'm sorry if I blew out anyone's earbuds or eardrums, but Chris Klein is finally gone. He's gonzo. Do not let that door hit you on the way out, and do not ever, 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 ever come back to Dignity Health Sports Park ever again. And Galaxy fans have been praying for this day to come, and Chris Klein is officially out, gone. He was fired this past Tuesday, and the day after, the LA Galaxy managed to beat Real Salt Lake in an MLS match 3-2, and the post-Chris Klein era is already going great guns, and honestly, it feels like the LA Galaxy fans can breathe clean air, especially now that they're no longer in last place. So the Chris Klein era is officially done, but Chris Klein, hasta la vista, you got fired on your day off. Goodbye. See you later. Do not come back ever, 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 ever again. And to quote Vince McMahon, you're fired. And as far as I'm concerned, my guy, you will never, ever, ever set foot at an LA Galaxy game ever again. And like my man Vince McMahon said, screw you, you're fired, get out of here! You are this week's Dum Dum of the Week. Get out of LA Galaxy land and never come back. You're so dumb. No. Talk to him real quick, my guy. Talk to him. Tell him how you truly feel.
You're so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
I had to get that off my chest there. And LA Galaxy fans, I know you have all been living in pain. I know it has basically been rough times for y'all, but you could finally come out of hiding. Chris Klein is officially gone. Now that's the first main Dum Dum of the Week award. Now, Dum Dum of the Week award number 2 on the main side of things. All right, so on Twitter, sometimes people can post random things, especially the random fans all over the place. Now, a big warning for everybody. This could be a little weird, so you either will be laughing on the ground or you'll be weirded out by this, but this is just a big warning. This could be a little weird. So, this happened on Wednesday. So, I was at work. It was a slow day at work, and I checked Twitter, and I didn't even see this tweet at first. I actually saw it via a quote tweet, and oh my goodness. So, I don't know if anyone knows who Josh Hart is, but Josh Hart was actually my first official Dum Dum of the Week. My first ever Dum Dum of the Week was actually a Phoenix Suns fan who counted $100 bills every time Giannis Antetokounmpo went to the free throw line. But Josh Hart was my true Dum Dum of the Week, who basically decided to say White Castle is better than In-N-Out. And yes, that is correct, Mikey Two Guns. Josh Hart plays for the New York Knicks. That's the guy. That's the Josh Hart we all know. That's the current Josh Hart that currently plays for the NBA. All right, but this guy's tweet, he randomly says some of the most interesting things. But this tweet right here, I don't know what came over him when he tweeted this out, but prepare to be mind blown. So he tweeted on Wednesday, I think this was either Wednesday morning or maybe this was the day before, but he said, and I quote, and please don't get weirded out by this, but he said, "Have y'all ever tasted y'all significant other's breast milk? Asking for a friend." Let me say that again. Have y'all ever tasted y'all significant other's breast milk? asking for a friend. I was just stunned by this tweet. At first, I didn't think this was real. I thought he got hacked at first. I was like, what? I was just mind blown. I'm like, oh no. He tweeted something out that was really crazy. And I'm like, why would he tweet out something that random? And then we got some of the most interesting replies. And one came from De'Aaron Fox of the Sacramento Kings. He was like, I'm not surprised you would ask this question. And people were basically urging De'Aaron Fox to answer the question, but he didn't. But then some people were actually replying to the question, or to Josh Hart's tweet in interesting fashion. And Marcus Los Great pops into the chat room. He says, SoCal Supreme Sports Show on Saturday. Marcus, you're actually just in time for Dum Dum of the Week. And, you're just in time for this. So, Josh Hart, in case you were wondering, Marcus, Josh Hart tweeted out a question about guys, if guys have had their significant other's breast milk. So, I was just confused at first. And then Dan Orlovsky actually replied 100%. And some were actually confused by this answer. And then he actually replied, I did. We had triplets, had to. Wasn't anything outrageous in my opinion. And, oh my goodness. And there were some interesting replies. The memes were so funny, as they're actually memes of NBA players who were just looking confused. There was a video of Josh Hart just looking rather stunned. Like, it was pretty funny, like, seeing all these memes and whatnot. But then there were some rather interesting replies, and some were even using Bob is here to explain and whatnot. So there were, I'm not going to give out people's names, but he said, there was this one guy, he said, I had a 6-week-old baby. I took a shot of it with every feeding. My trainer says he can see the gains. Okay. Okay. That I did not know that. Oh my goodness. And apparently someone said that someone had COVID and someone put their significant other's breast milk in their coffee, and then he drank it, and then he felt better afterward as time went on, and then it helped build the immune system. So I learned quite a bit from this whole interaction. And you know Josh Hart got the attention of practically a lot of people when 27 million plus saw this tweet. And he even got the attention of Stephen A. Smith, as he even talked about this little segment on his show, the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast. And I was just stunned. I was just like flabbergasted at this. It's like, what? Why? Why is this a thing? And it was just funny. I don't know if I should give him Dumb of the Week, but it was just so random and out of the blue. It's like, what? Now, Josh Hart has obviously been well known to be saying random things and tweeting things to, like, get everyone's attention, but this is just, like, so random. Like, who asked this question? And who is this friend he's wondering? Either his friend is a baby, or his friend had a baby, or his friend was tempted to have breast milk but chose not to. But either way, Josh Hart, I don't know what urged you to ask this question on Twitter, but I think I know why the Lakers dealt you in the Anthony Davis trade. Because they don't want to deal with that whole Twitter thing, and I don't think Laker Nation wants to deal with that whole question debacle anymore. It's one thing that you tweeted, White Castle is greater than In-N-Out. That I'm never going to forgive you for. but you decided to tweet about if you've had your significant other's breast milk. Man, it really caught everyone's attention. It's just stunning. And I was about to show my brother this, but man, I was just flabbergasted by this question. It really got the attention of 27 plus million people. So, and there were a lot of interesting stories, and there were a lot of memes on this tweet and whatnot. So, Josh Hart, I don't know what to really say. I don't know if I should really give you Dumb of the Week, or if I should really just forget about this, but this was just such an out-of-the-blue thing. So, but this is a segment, this was a tweet that I'm never going to forget about. So, but I kind of have to give Josh Hart the Dumb of the Week, just because it's like, who asks this question? And it's like, why? Just please give us the details on why you asked this question and why you decided to say, and why you decided to basically ask if we've had our significant other's breast milk. Now, I don't have a significant other, so I don't apply it for this, but why would you ask this question, dude? Like, just please give us the full details. Just please. One day we will get that answer, but this is going to be in the category of questions that will never ever be answered, or things that will never ever be answered of why something was asked. But Josh Hart, you're the dumb of the week, kinda. You just asked a really weird question at a really weird time in a really weird place on social media. Anyway, you're just the dumb of the week.
You are so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
And that, my friends, is all she wrote. As my brother once said, Twitter is not real life. Man, never change, Josh Hart. Never change. I think the Knicks got to take this man's cell phone away, or at least prevent him from going on Twitter a whole lot in this offseason. Just please, New York Knicks, just have him work on his jump shot. Maybe you'll get to the conference finals. Maybe. Hence the word maybe. I'm not guaranteeing it like Charles Barkley, but I digress. But anyway, that is going to do it for this week's episode of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Before I weird anyone out even further, if I did weird out anybody, I do apologize in advance. I was not expecting Josh Hart to basically talk about breast milk on social media like that. And even Stephen A. Smith brought up the whole Dave Chappelle skit about breast milk. But I digress on that. But that's going to do it for this week's episode of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to get on out of here, because I got to get my grub on in terms of dinner. Yeah, dig? Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. I really do appreciate everybody tuning in. If you listen live, I appreciate you. If you listen on the playback, I appreciate you. If you listen at work, I appreciate you. If you listen at any time, any place, anywhere, I appreciate you. Shout to the chat room, Mike Two Guns, Marcus Los Great, Larry B, and Mike Pat. I really do appreciate everybody tuning in. Next week, I will try to do a show. I'm not certain if I'll do SoCal Supreme Sports Show. I am working Fridays and Saturdays. That's kind of going to be my bread and butter days. The days I'll most likely be going live. If not, I'll maybe go live on like Sunday after fast break, but we will see. So, for everyone here at IE Sports Radio, this is Teran Rodriguez signing off. You all have yourself a great rest of the weekend. Please stay safe. Please apply your sunscreen, just because summer is arriving. Pretty much summer is here, just because we're now in the month of June. I guess don't tweet out anything silly like Josh Hart did. And don't try breast milk if you don't really want to. I will see you all Monday for Set Point. But till then, have a great rest of the weekend. And just remember, SoCal is for SoCal. Peace!